Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day and I hope you've also been enjoying all the music videos that I've been putting out recently. Now I think it's safe to say that I play a fair few instruments. Trumpet, guitar, saxophone, bass, trombone, piano. But in a lot of my videos, and especially in some of my more recent videos, I've used a ukulele. I love the sound of a ukulele. It's just so simple and it makes you want to smile. Those of you in the audience who have been keeping up with my cover videos, thank you very much if you are one of those people who watches every week. Well, you've probably noticed that I've been favouring the ukulele a lot in my recent videos. But the more eagle-eyed viewers among you may have realised that I have several different ukuleles which I use in my videos. So today's video, I'm just going to run you through all the different ukuleles I own, why I own them, the stories behind them, and to a certain extent the reasons I use different ukuleles for different recordings. So without further ado, let's get to it. This is my Ukulele Collection video. First on the list is this. This is a Mahalo Soprano ukulele, and it's the first ukulele I ever owned. Truth be told, I don't really play this ukulele much anymore, which is, you know, why there's the odd bit of dust on it. To be perfectly honest, it doesn't hold its tuning very well. But this was my very first ukulele, and although it's not got the best sound in the world, it still holds a dear place in my heart. This was given to me by my parents as a birthday present, I think, back in 2010, so 7 years ago now. It's actually held up pretty well. I mean, yes, I have better sounding ukuleles now, but as a starter instrument, this wasn't too bad. I mean, it was enough for me to learn the basics and how to play simple chords and stuff like that, but for a beginner instrument, it's really not that bad. But yeah, for a first ukulele, this has served me pretty well. There's also a reason as to why I've got this weird string wrapped around the headstock. When I was studying at the Brit School, I was in a production of Oklahoma, and there was one line in the show that said, "Strike up that old banjo." By coincidence, on the day we happened to be rehearsing that scene, I had in the room with me this ukulele, and so the director pointed at me and said, "Play the banjo!" And so, yeah, even though it's actually a ukulele, not a banjo, I obliged, and it ended up in the show. Because I was doing stuff in the rest of the scene beforehand, I needed a way to kind of sling it over my back, so like so, I had it on my shoulder and it just kind of dangled down behind me. And because it was Oklahoma and it had an old-timey Cowboys kind of feel to it, I decided to tie some old string to it because it was more in keeping with the show in my eyes. And also because I was a student and I was poor. So my next ukulele that I have to show you is another soprano. It's a Herald soprano ukulele. I've never actually come across Herald before. This ukulele itself kind of just fell into my possession and I gladly took it on. But that said, this is a damn good ukulele. It's a bit beaten up, but it still sounds great and I love these tuners on the back. So if any of you out there saw me in a show a few years ago called Dreamboats and Petticoats, you might remember that at the very end of the show, I appeared in a scene where I was holding a ukulele, and this is the same ukulele from that tour. This was bought as a prop. It wasn't bought as a musical instrument. It was bought for something for me to hold on stage to make me look like a musician, despite the fact that I was also playing trumpet and keyboards in the show. But yeah, they bought me a ukulele, so I'm not complaining. Technically, they didn't buy me a ukulele. The show bought a ukulele for use in the show. So how did I end up with it? Well, basically at the end of the year, the show came to a close and the tour ended. And then by complete coincidence, I ended up in a room with the stage management team from another show who were going through the Dreamboats and Petticoats props and kind of getting rid of anything they didn't feel like they needed anymore. This ukulele was sitting on top of a pile and I said, "Oh, what's happening with that ukulele? What's happening with that pile?" And I said, "Oh, that's all the stuff to be just thrown in the bin." I said, "You can't throw a perfectly good ukulele in the bin." And they said, "Well, if you want it, you're more than welcome to have it." So I did. So yeah, I like to think I saved this ukulele from a fate it didn't deserve. I've actually taken this same ukulele around on tour with me a few other times. I keep it in my dressing room and play it when I'm feeling bored. This is also the ukulele that I used to record my song Perfect Summer Day from my last EP. And this is also the uke that I used in the music video, which you can see a little snippet of here. And, you know, click the card up there if you want to see the video in full. But yeah, lovely little Herald ukulele. No idea where it came from, but it sounds great. Coming up next is something a little bit different. I have for you a Banjo Laylee. Now, what is a Banjo Laylee? Well, essentially it's a cross between a banjo and a ukulele. If you've never seen one of these before, essentially it's got the body of a banjo, so it's got this kind of, you know, banjo head, but it's got the neck and the strings and the fingerings, essentially, of a normal ukulele. This is actually a concert banjolele. That doesn't mean it's for use with, like, you know, orchestras or anything like that, but it means that when this is a soprano ukulele, the next size up from that is a concert. You can see that this is just ever so slightly bigger. The Banjo Laylee, what a cool name by the way, was actually used by George Foreman. George Foreman? No, George Formby. He makes grills and also Banjo Laylees. No, George Formby played the Banjo Laylee quite a lot, which of course I'm sure you are well aware of if you've seen my Leaning on a Lamppost cover in which I played this Banjo Laylee. I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady comes by. So yeah, having a banjo head gives it a very, very different sound. It's also a really loud instrument as well, so this is great for parties and big sing-alongs. That's the Banjo Laylee, a cool little addition to my ukulele collection. Moving on swiftly, because I'm running out of battery on my camera, we have the Mahalo Tenor ukulele. Now, if you remember, the concert ukulele was just a bit bigger than the standard soprano ukulele. Well, it's essentially the same thing with the tenor, in that it's just a bit bigger than the concert ukulele. And as a result, because this is a bit bigger as well, it's got a slightly more mellow sound to it, so it's not quite as twangy as the sopranos were. So yeah, just a bit more of a mellow sound to it. I bought this ukulele a few years ago now while I was on tour, mainly because I wanted something a bit different from a soprano ukulele, and I was kind of interested to hear what a tenor ukulele sounded like and played like. Also, I have quite fat fingers, so I thought having a larger neck and larger frets might actually, you know, help my playing to a certain extent, make it slightly easier for me to play certain chords. But yeah, if my cheapy soprano ukulele is kind of what I learnt the basics on, then this tenor is really more sort of what I expanded my knowledge on. You know, it was on this ukulele that I learnt to play more like the twiddly bits and, you know, the difficult chords that required, you know, more than 2 or 3 fingers. I'd say when I had my first couple of soprano ukuleles, I didn't really consider myself a ukulele player, I just considered myself someone who could strum a few chords. But when I got this, I was kind of thinking more along the lines of, okay, I actually want to learn how to play this instrument properly. And yeah, it's because of this ukulele that I did, really. But I have used this ukulele in videos before. I think it makes an appearance in my cover of You Really Got a Hold on Me, which I did with my friend Chloe. I think it also pops up in my Coldplay cover of Adventure of a Lifetime. Instead of having an acoustic guitar part, I like to put a bit of ukulele in there instead. So yeah, for many years, this was like my go-to ukulele. This was what I played all the time, until very, very recently. When I'm playing live with my band, obviously I have to have a ukulele that I can plug into the amp or into the PA or something like that. You may have noticed that all my ukuleles so far have been acoustic ukuleles. I did actually try to make this an electric ukulele at one point. I had a little pickup thing here, which I think you can just see. It's got a little mini jack thing here, and it wasn't really very successful, if I'm perfectly honest. So for most of last year when I was playing gigs with my band, what I ended up actually having to do was borrowing my drummer Sheridan's ukulele, because he had a ukulele that I could plug in, and so yeah. But a few months ago I figured it was time to take the plunge. It was time for me to get my very own Electro Acoustic ukulele. And I chose this, which is a very lovely concert Kala ukulele. I love this ukulele so much. It's got shiny tuners and the strings feel wonderful to play, and it's got a gloss finish as well, unlike all the other ukuleles that I own. So I'm still very much in the new instrument phase with this ukulele. The novelty hasn't worn off yet. But yes, as you can see, most importantly, it's got a little socket there to plug into the PA, and, you know, some controls on there for me to mess around with, basically. In a bit of a plot twist though, I very nearly didn't end up with this Kala ukulele. I nearly bought another brand instead. Originally, when I was shopping around for an Electro Acoustic ukulele, I discounted Kala. Not that I think there's anything wrong with Kala ukuleles. I think they're one of the best, if not the best, makers of ukuleles in the world. But the reason I originally discounted them was because I own a Mahalo ukulele. Now, Mahalo is kind of like the junior brand for Kala. Same company, just slightly different name on the headstock, and, you know, a little bit more affordable. But I thought, I've already got a Mahalo ukulele, so for my Electro Acoustic ukulele, I'm going to go with something a bit different, have a bit of variety. So I actually ended up buying a completely different ukulele from a completely different company, and I'm not going to mention what that company is because it didn't go very well. Picture the scene. Essentially, my brand new ukulele arrived, I got it out of the box, I plugged it in, and it didn't work. I mean, you know, acoustically, it worked just fine, but the pickup, the little pickup bit, just didn't play at all. You plugged it in, it didn't work at all, it was completely dead. So that was very, very disappointing. So I let the company know, I sent it back to them. They sent me out a replacement instrument. Unfortunately, when I got my replacement ukulele out of the box, I gave it a quick strum and, well, sadly there was quite a lot of string buzz on it. If you don't know, then string buzz is essentially when you pluck a note like this, and instead of getting a nice clean note like that, you get this horrible buzzing sound because the string is vibrating against something on the instrument. Usually it's like the little frets here, or there's something inside the sound hole which is vibrating and is just causing all this horrible sound. So yeah, to be perfectly honest, I was kind of annoyed that my second ukulele also had a fault with it, so I ended up sending that one back, and instead of getting a third replacement, I just decided to call it quits, and I went back to Kala because Kala are brilliant, basically. They were just the safe bet. They are the experts in making ukuleles. They make great instruments. I thought, you know what, I already have one ukulele made by them. It's very, very good, so, you know, I'm more than happy to get a second one, especially if I'm confident that it's going to give me a great sound out of the box, and that it's going to survive being played many, 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 many times over the coming years, and that it's still going to give me a great sound no matter what. In case you're wondering, this video isn't sponsored by Kala in any way, although if someone at Kala does want to make that happen, then, you know, I'd very much appreciate it. But yeah, if you see me at a live gig in the future, then this is pretty much 100% the ukulele that I will be playing. And I'm pretty sure it's also going to feature on a fair few more videos on this channel as well. This uke is just an absolute joy to play. It's like my fingers are sort of flowing over the fretboard, so, you know, I love playing this and I just want to do more stuff with it. So there you go, guys. That's my ukulele collection. A couple of sopranos, a couple of concert ukes, and my good old tenor ukulele as well. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please do go and check out some of those other ukulele covers that I mentioned earlier. And if you're feeling generous, then why not click that good old subscribe button to see a brand new video from me every single week. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!